Hello, hello, LinkedIn, my Facebook group, and YouTube today. In case you don't know me, I'm Beth Granger. I'm a trainer, consultant, and speaker working with organizations and individuals to help them unleash the power of LinkedIn and networking. And I go live and introduce you to really interesting people that I know and have amazing conversations. A little bit of housekeeping. If you hear a funny noise, it may be my window air conditioner. We're having a bit of a heat wave, and there's no way I could do this without the air conditioner on. Also, please like, share, comment, whether you're here live with us or on replay, and we'll find out and be able to respond to you. Today, I have Ilise Benun, the founder of Marketing Mentor. Her website is marketing-mentor.com. She's a business mentor for designers, copywriters, and creative pros. And wow, is she prolific. She has written 7 books, is a speaker, has a podcast, online courses. Wow. Ilise, welcome.
Thank you, Beth. It's great to be here.
So much fun. So we were talking, we actually had a little behind the scenes intel for all of you. I thought I had pressed the go live button and we started talking, and then the go live button popped up. And so apparently we hadn't gone live, or we did, and then it didn't. We were talking about something interesting that I do want to hear more about before I go to the questions I had prepared. Ilise was saying I was commenting how prolific she is with content and asking, which is your favorite type of content?
Yeah, and I said that I love doing my podcast. I've been doing it since 2008, actually. So I think it was before it was called a podcast, actually, or that might have been just the beginning. And I just love having conversations like this, right? Very informal, with people who are actually practicing what I preach, and letting them share like what's working, what's not working, what are the challenges, because often people believe it more when other people say it than when I say it, truthfully. I don't know if you find that also with your clients.
That's interesting. Before I started my own business, I found that often organizations would trust the word of an outsider rather than somebody that worked there.
Right. Yeah.
Don't know why that is. Human nature. Who knows? Maybe I'll get somebody on who knows about that stuff. That would be a good topic. So just curious, obviously, designers, copywriters, when you say creative pros, what do you mean by that? Who does that include in addition to designers and copywriters?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I use the word creative very creatively, actually. And anyone who self-identifies as a creative professional I'm happy to try helping. But it is a lot of people marketing kind of B2B commercial services. And I make a distinction between fine art and things that are not as commercial, because I just find that the needs of the market is different, and the way you market your services is different when you're reaching out to someone who needs what you have as opposed to someone who just wants or loves what you have.
Yeah, that's a very good distinction. So how did you end up specializing in this? Did you wake up one day and just say, this is what I want to do? I'm sure there's a story behind it. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, so there is a story, but I would preface the story by saying that I'm listening to the market. And that's what I teach, is how to listen to the market. And so I practice what I preach also. And I lived in Hoboken for 30 plus years. And everyone I knew in New York and Hoboken were creative people. At that point, dancers, musicians, artists, actors, and they were all really disorganized. And this was pre-internet, pre-computer. This was all paper. So they were just drowning in piles of paper. And I thought I was a little bit more organized. So when I was fired from my second job out of college, or now looking back, I see that I got myself fired because I didn't know how to quit. But basically, I got myself fired. And then I was like, all right, I am unemployable. I'm too bossy. I've been actually posting on LinkedIn lately about how bossy I was. And those qualities now serve me really well as a self-employed person, because I have to be the boss and take the role and the responsibility of the boss. And many people who were employed and are now making the transition to self-employment don't really know how to do that. It's a totally different mindset. So that's definitely one of the things that I teach. Anyway, I was listening to the market. Everyone I knew was disorganized. I thought I was a little bit more organized. So we would go through the piles of papers, and at the bottom of everybody's pile, there was really always something that had to do with self-promotion and marketing that they weren't doing. And so it was kind of common sense to me. It was like, here's someone asking for examples of your work. Let's just send it to them. They'd be like, oh no, I don't know how to do that. Well, let's put some examples together. We'll put them in an envelope. We'll write a nice little cover letter and we'll just send it off. And that was just, it seemed obvious to me that that was the real need. And so I just followed the need, because again, what I teach is, what does the world need? Not what do you want to do? I really don't care what you want to do. I want you to look at what the world needs and then fit what you can do with what the world needs.
I was just talking to somebody today who I think you probably know, and I was saying that I actually had clients invent a service for me. So
Yes.
I was working with some people on something that we started with, and it sort of morphed into what I'm calling collaborative content creation.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought one thing, I thought they possibly needed one thing, and they kept saying, no, what I really need, this is what I need. I need you to be like a personal trainer and be right there with me as I'm developing this content. So yeah.
So you are listening to the market.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And interesting. Do you think that there's something to people who are naturally creative? You know, you talked about dancers, musicians, artists, actors, that part of their creativity, it's not that disorganization necessarily goes with it, but it's that creative people are so focused on all the ideas that they have and all the things that they're focusing on, so they ignore the other things?
That's part of it, but I think they've also been told that they're not business people, that they don't know how to do business. They don't do numbers. I can't deal with numbers. A lot of people say that to me. It's like, all right, but if you want to be successful in business, you got to figure out how to do the numbers. And so it's just basic common sense, but it's a mindset. And so you have to kind of help people understand that this is something they were just never trained to do. They've never learned it, right? And so you can learn it if you put your mind to it. And, you know, if you do, what I've been saying lately is, if you take care of your business will take care of you. But you can't stay attached to those beliefs that other people planted in your head when you were way too young to say, no, that's not me. I'm going to be something else. I'm going to be what I need to be, what I want to be.
I love that, because I know if I had met you 11 years ago, you would have been very helpful. I started a business. I'm an accidental entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Never had a business plan, never, didn't do all those things. And then luckily was successful, but there still were things that in the beginning, I think you'll get a kick out of this. In the beginning, I could not ask for an amount of money that I couldn't personally afford to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's very common, actually.
Right? Yeah. So tell me, what do you think is the biggest challenge that creative people have when starting a business?
Well, it is a lack of confidence. It is a lack of security. And that manifests in so many different ways. People can't promote themselves because they just don't see their own value, and they can't talk about money. They can't initiate the money conversation. They can't quote a price because they think someone will think they're too greedy, or they're just not comfortable because then they're going to have to live up to that price. I mean, there's so many, it's so psychological, and there's so many things that we put in our own way. And so again, it's just about learning and making mistakes and practicing and learning from those mistakes. That's the way you get better at these things. But I think it is all rooted in a lack of confidence that gradually, right? It's not like a switch that you flip. It just very gradually grows the better you get at what you do.
I love it. Yeah. And you're right, at least for me, and that's all I can share, is that mine was definitely a gradual growth. I remember the day I used to say, in a networking meeting, oh, I have my own business. but I don't know how much I believed that. Even though I had clients, I was supporting myself.
Right.
And I remember very distinctly the day that I said it out loud and really felt it.
Mm.
So,
And
yeah,
what changed that day? Why was it different that day?
I don't know. It was just over time. It's a great question. There wasn't any specific thing. It just, I knew that feeling was different. When I said it
Interesting.
as if it was, because
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
So do you see a lot of people, especially this past crazy year, a lot of people wanting to start their own businesses?
Or being forced to start their own businesses. Yes, definitely. Or being given the gift of opportunity and time to say, right? I mean, this thing they keep calling the great resignation, because people saw, wait a minute, what was I doing? What was I thinking when I agreed to work in a chaotic environment? I can be in control of the way I do my work. And that really takes a lot of responsibility and autonomy. And so there's a lot of work that goes into it, but the freedom is, kind of unsurpassable.
I agree. I have a friend actually who does what I do, but a little differently, who says she's enthusiastically unemployable.
Exactly.
Yes. So, and what would you say, people know their skill, they're experts at their craft, but they're not experts at running a business. What
Right.
would you say are maybe the key areas that they should focus on first?
Well, the two areas that I focus on are marketing and money, because those two things are connected. So you need to be able to figure out who your ideal clients are and then speak to them in a way that through all of your marketing, they find you, whether it's your LinkedIn profile or your website, and they land on you and they say, oh my God, this is exactly who we need, because you're speaking their language and you obviously get them. And then the money part is, how do you figure out what they have available to pay so that you can charge them something that they can pay, as opposed to, here are my prices, and no matter what, I'm not backing down. I don't care who and why won't they pay me what I'm worth. I mean, there's a lot of, again, kind of mental, psychological stuff that goes on. But if you can learn these two pieces that work together, the marketing and the money, those are the basic things about the business.
I love that. It's true. Absolutely. Would you say so if they're trying to figure out how much somebody can pay, does that mean they don't come up with packages and package pricing, that each engagement is its own thing?
No, you can have your packages and your tiered pricing, but before you get there, you need to know, are you talking to someone who can afford you in the first place, right? And so my trick is, you say, are you thinking 500, 5,000, or 50,000?
I love it.
Well, those are not your prices, right? You can't get the $500 package, the $50,000 package, but where are you on the spectrum, right? Or another way to think about it is, are you thinking a Porsche or a Toyota? Right? You can create a little distance and make it easier to talk about by taking it away from the actual numbers sometimes, just to get a sense of where they are.
I like that a lot. I'm going to try that next time.
Try that.
Yeah. Interesting. So the money part, I get that, the having to figure out how much to charge. And what are your thoughts on, because this is always a conversation that I know a lot of business owners of all types, not just creative, and the idea of hourly rate versus project rate.
Right.
Any thoughts on that?
A lot of thoughts on that. I'll start by saying it really depends on what you're offering and how the time is spent, because I bill hourly, right? Because my time is spent with my client. So you're going to pay for 10 hours of my time, my brain on your business, is how I talk about it. And I think that makes sense. But when you're doing something that the better you get, the quicker you are, if you're charging hourly, that means the less you're going to make. And so you're kind of working at cross purposes with your client because they want it to cost as little as possible and take you as less time as possible. And then the better you get, the less you're going to be able to charge. And I just really don't think that makes sense at all. So in general, I think project-based pricing is the best way to say everyone will know how much they're going to earn, how much they're going to pay. It's good for cash flow. Everything is clear. But it also means you have to be able to estimate well and know how long things take.
Yes, I know that back in the day. So I actually started as a graphic designer many years ago. And when estimating, even internally, because we're sort of an internal art department, I always found that I needed to figure out what I thought it would take, and then add a certain amount because I always underestimated. Yeah.
Doubling it is a good strategy.
Yeah. I don't think I did that then. I think I did 50%, but
okay.
Yeah, double is good.
Well, because most people underestimate. They do what I think of as a wishful estimating, right? Or wishful thinking when it comes to pricing. Oh, I can do that in 2 hours. No, everything takes longer than you think it will.
Always. It takes the amount of time that you have, actually, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So what else? Moving on to marketing. I'm sure you see people do some really, they're typically creative people are part of that process for other people.
Right.
Right. They're developing something visual or in written or video or whatever it might be. But yet when they're doing their own, it's a little different, maybe because they're more emotionally attached to it. What mistakes do you see them making?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake is not being able to see from the ideal client's perspective, right? You're thinking about it from your own perspective. And that's kind of like what you were saying, like, I can't charge any more than I would be able to afford. That makes no sense at all, right? So you have to think about it in terms of what is the client thinking? What is the language they use to describe their need, the pain point? A lot of people say, right, that your solution is designed to cure. And how would they go about looking for the help that they need? And all of these things require you to basically create some distance from yourself, step outside of yourself, and learn about someone else's perspective, and then be able to essentially regurgitate it back to them in the language that will make them say, oh my God, they get me.
Right. And so how do they do that?
Well, a lot of it has to do with curiosity. I like to call curiosity a marketing tool, because questions are the answer to everything, right? So when you don't know what to say, when, for example, you're at a networking event, let's say, and someone says, what do? You could give your elevator pitch, or you could ask a question instead. You could say, well, tell me first what you do, and then I will tailor my elevator pitch to exactly what you do so that you don't have to hear about anything that isn't of interest or relevant to you.
No, I love that.
Good, right?
Cool. So, and Roy's on. Hey, Roy. He says, nice to hear some insights on pricing and marketing. Roy is very talented. So thank you for joining us, Roy. And back to the marketing. So I'm going to have you repeat that in case people didn't get it. I love this technique. So you're at a networking event. Somebody asks you, what do you do? What is your technique?
And you do many different things, and you're not sure which one to say for this person, basically, is the situation. And so you use a question, right? Instead of an answer, you say, well, if you would tell me first what you do, then I will tailor my response, my elevator pitch to you. So you don't have to hear about anything that is not of interest or relevance to you.
I love that. I'm typing that down right now. Love it. That is a good one. And again, for people here live or watching us on replay, if you have questions, please put them in the chat so that we can make the best use of our time together. Oh, where to go from here? I mean, it's running a business it's a whole separate thing. I think when people start a business, they don't always realize that, at least initially, they are every role, right? They're the accountant, they're the operations person, they're the cleaner, they're the, right?
Yeah.
Everything involved in the business.
And the thing is that I think often when people start, it looks really easy, number one, because all you see are the people, talking about how wonderful it is and how much freedom they have and how many clients they have. But remember, that's marketing. So you can't believe everything you hear, number one. And I think when people imagine it that way, and some people start off really well and they have a couple clients and like, oh, this isn't so hard. But then you always hit a wall at a certain point. And it could be 6 months in, it could be 3 years in, but you hit a wall. You're like, wait a minute, everything slowed down. The word of mouth stopped. What am I going to do? And then you start to realize, okay, there's a lot more involved in this than I thought. And there's a lot I have to learn. And really, we're pretty lazy as animals for the most part, and we only want to do the least we absolutely have to do. And sometimes with running your own business, there's just a lot you have to do. So you have to kind of get over, acknowledge, and then get over that laziness if you want to be successful.
It's true. You are right. I remember at one point, I had a single client that was a huge percentage of my business.
Gorilla client, we call that.
Yeah. And that certainly is good in many ways, but what happens if they go away?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I would disagree with you. I don't think that's so good, actually, because it puts you in a very precarious position. And if you're not marketing at the same time, and most people say, but I don't have time, they're keeping me too busy. Yeah, you got to keep the marketing going so that your pipeline is full, so that you get to choose who you want to work with, because things happen and you always have to know how you're going to replace whoever is there, because they could leave at any moment. There's no loyalty there. Even if they have a contract, it's not,
Yep.
it's not set in stone.
Yeah. And what types of marketing have you found to be, for your clients or for you or both, to be the most effective?
Yeah, well, I mean, after my 30 plus years, I've basically distilled it into 3 marketing tools. And I'll go over them briefly. Strategic networking is the first one. And that's what we do on LinkedIn, right? That's choosing carefully, strategically, who we want to reach out to, who we want to connect with, and then building relationships with those people, not thinking, what am I going to get from them, but what can I give to them? Being generous. Again, using generosity as a marketing tool as well. Right? So that's strategic networking. Targeted outreach is another thing that we can do on LinkedIn, where we introduce ourselves to people that we're perfect for, but they just don't know we exist yet. That's the problem. So we have to get a little bit of mental real estate and let them know that we are out here and we really want to help them, and it's a perfect fit and we're totally aligned, and here's why. And then you have to stay in touch with them over time with content marketing. That's the third tool. High quality, pain point, that signal content marketing that speaks to their needs about what they are struggling with, not about what you know, basically.
I love it. I love it. So you're sharing such gems this afternoon. I love it.
Thank you.
Such an interesting conversation, especially because it's my world, right? It's where I started. I all those points you talked about. I remember when.
Yes.
Well, we have been almost talking for half an hour. I can't believe how quickly it goes. Is there anything coming up that you want to share with people, or if they want to reach out to you, learn more, what's the best way to do that?
Okay, so the way I stay in touch with people with my content is through my quick tips. So if you go to marketing-mentortips.com, then you can sign up for my quick tips there. And that's really the best thing. I do offer a free 30-minute mentoring session if people want my brain on their business. And, I'll answer any questions that you have. And then the other thing I just always want to say is slow down, because most people are just in a rush. And when we are rushing, we can't think clearly. And we just really need to be patient with ourselves and with our prospects and with our process. So I just always like to wrap up by reminding people to please slow down.
I think that is the perfect way to close our conversation today. This has been so much fun. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Beth, for the invitation.
Well, everyone, feel free again to comment after the fact. I know some people who like to listen, actually, almost like a podcast after the fact. So this has been great. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.